welcome to Bruery Society Beers, episode number 8 of...
Brutal Battle.
Yes, what noise do we hear? It's Rebecca's voice.
Oh yeah, I'm not normally on these.
Right, although you did jump in for the last two of the last one because you were very interested in those and you happened to just be around and like, yeah, I'll jump on for this. So Rebecca's starting this episode for the first time ever. Part of the reason is the COVID-19 thing's going on. We're not going to talk about it. That's as much as we're going to say. That's going on, so Rebecca's around.
Rebecca's been furloughed, so Rebecca...
Yeah. So Rebecca's around, so there's no reason for her not to get involved. Yeah. So she's going to be involved, at least for now. So we're going to start this one out, and usually, I talk about a little bit something having to do with the Bruery Society. So with any of the society, and it kind of depends on what your level is, but they always will have like archive sales for beers, where they'll have some sort of... Sometimes it's like an anniversary that they're celebrating, and sometimes it's just random. We're opening the cellar, the archive, and you can buy older beers. So I know definitely with Reserve Society, which is what I'm in, you get that opportunity at least a few times a year to buy those older bottles of beers. Hoarder Society, I'm sure they get that at least at the same frequency as Reserve Society. And Preservation Society, I know they also get that sometimes, but what they have to pick from is more limited. And I assume that the hoarders have even more of a selection than what Reserve Society has. So it's just one of those things. So that's kind of all I wanted to say is, for these societies, they sell older beers, vintage beers. Obviously, there's a higher price tag on those, but it's usually not insane how much more it is of a markup. So you can get, I don't know, just to throw it out there, like a 4 or 5 year old bottle of Black Tuesday or something if you want to. You don't have to buy it yourself and sit on it for that long. So it's kind of nice for that reason. If you're kind of not good at sitting on beers, which, I'm fine at that, but sometimes very unintentionally.
Yes.
But yeah.
To your detriment sometimes.
So to highlight the archive situation, I have a beer that is very old from the brewery that I pulled out of the cellar. It's I think it's my favorite sour beer that they do. Now, I will say I didn't buy this as an archive beer from them. I didn't even buy it directly from them. I found it already aged for like a year and a half or something at a liquor store that just had it sitting on the shelf. I'm like, why is this still sitting here? I'm buying this. A sour stout aged in oak barrels, and it is... what's the ABV on this? Only 7% alcohol, which is unbelievably low for a brewery beer, pretty much. And it is the 2013 vintage.
Wow.
So this is probably not quite 7 years old, but at least 6.5 at this point, potentially almost 7 years old. So this is an old bottle. And like I said, I love Tart of Darkness, and they have some variants of it, and we'll probably do some of the variants at some point during these.
So this is just straight up Tart of Darkness.
Straight up Tart of Darkness. But we also have in our fridge currently like cacao nib and raspberry version, and then a cherry and vanilla version.
We had a Tart of Darkness this year at Christmas, didn't we? And that was that rum barrel?
Yes. Yeah, we tried the rum barrel version, which was fun.
And this is just because recently I was saying I haven't had a lot of dark sours recently.
Yeah, that's why I decided to pull this out and be like, you got to be on this, because she literally said on a recent episode, we haven't had a whole lot of dark sours, but here's a prime example of a very good dark sour.
Carlin's like, I'll show you a dark sour.
This actually might be the very first dark sour beer I ever had in my life. So, yeah. So anyway, does it look dark?
It does.
I mean, it looks like a stout.
Yeah.
It doesn't look imperial by any means, because you swirl it up and...
Stout porter.
Yeah. It has bubbles when you swirl it up, but they're gigantic. They're like, it's a very large bubbled head.
It smells tart, obviously.
Does it smell dark tart? What do you get?
I'm getting plum. I'm getting dark cherry.
Oh. See, I definitely keyed in on like a cherry note, but the plum is an interesting pull. I agree with it.
Oh,
but I did not think of that. I was mainly thinking cherry as soon as I smelled it.
Yeah, it definitely is very cherry forward.
And when I keep smelling it, there's like a little There's a little, like, dark roasty malt you can get in the nose, and it comes off maybe a tad bit dark chocolatey, but it's very faint. Which
is funny, because the very first thing I thought when I put my nose in my glass was dark chocolate cherry.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I also smell some wood.
That is exactly what I was going to say. And then I thought to myself, I smell wood. I know it's not barrel aged.
No, it is. Oak.
Oh, it is.
Oak.
Oh.
I mean, it's not spirit barrel, but oak barrels.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I missed that, I guess, when you were talking.
Yeah, so you're getting the oak.
But I'm definitely getting the oak, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, yeah. Sourness kind of punches you around the back sides of your tongue.
It's like the tartness. It's not like...
Right. Well, I mean, I'd say it's sour, but it's like low sour.
Yeah.
It just like tingles the back sides of your tongue. I feel like I taste the plum. I taste the cherry to it. Gotta fight through the sour to get to other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I get a lot. It finishes with a really strong oak.
Yeah. Yeah, that oak is very, very, very pronounced.
I wish the fruit flavors were a little dialed up. Mm-hmm. Because that oak is a little overbearing.
Okay. That may have to do with the age of it. Mm-hmm. That the oaks kind of become way more prominent as it's gotten older. The other thing is, I think the sourness has simplified more as it's gotten older. Mm-hmm. And when you're tasting the sourness, it's coming off as very lemon. Like I said, I get some of the cherry, I get some of the plum, but it's very dialed back and it's very lemon on the sour. So it's almost mainly two note. It's like the lemony sour and that like strong woody oak.
It's not as complex as
a fresh one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't age great, but it still tastes good.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink this whole 750 milliliter bottle. Well, hopefully you'll join me.
I was going to say, wait, where am I going to go?
I don't want to drink a 750 of something with this level of sourness because that's a whole lot of phlegm production.
I know. My phlegm is already going.
And that's more than one antacid. That's another thing. Yeah. Because sours get me.
I feel like we should take this opportunity to give a little shout out to our littlest listener who listens when her parents listen. So we wanted to say hello to Olivia.
Olivia Norman, daughter to Kyle and Kelly Norman.
And she said she always hears Kelly, 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 Kyle, 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 but never gets to hear her name.
Because this podcast is a family affair for them, so that's awesome. So yeah, actually, I don't know when I'm releasing this, so we may have already said her name on an earlier episode, but from the sounds of it, we can't say it enough. Yeah. So, Olivia Norman, this one's for you. All right, so moving on to the second beer. And just so people know, you're not going to hear me opening this beer on the podcast because it is waxed, so I don't like to mess with those on podcast anymore because it can take forever. And this one, I'm glad I didn't do that because it was a bit of a struggle. There's like at least 3 layers of wax on this, maybe 4.
Maybe 4.
It is very, very thick. It's in a 375 milliliter bottle, and this is a prime example of every now and then, us Reserve Society folks get some trickle down from the Hoarders Society.
You lowly folks.
And you gotta jump on it, because when you get a little taste at the teat of the Hoarders Society,
you need it.
you gotta get that taste. So this is, I don't know if they're still doing it, but I know at least they used to. Every year they'd release a Hoarders Cuvée. And they do 2 versions. One that's just the barrel-aged version, and one that's like the Bruery Terroir sour, or some component of sour version. So this is the Bruery Terroir Hoarders Cuvée, and this is the 2018 edition. So there are a few years on this bottle currently. Now, this one is a blended sour stout aged in oak barrels with cacao nibs, vanilla, and blueberries. And it is 7.9% alcohol, which is a very low ABV for the brewery. So I'm excited about that. And like I said, 375 milliliter bottle. So very easy to take down on your own, especially with the ABV.
I love the size of these bottles.
I know. If you're going to do bottles, 375 milliliters is the way to go these days if you're not doing 12 ounce. And I would just say, really, you should just be doing 16 ounce cans, though. That's my opinion. But whatever. You know, they're doing cans, they're doing these smaller bottles. I don't want to buy 720s anymore. A lot of people don't. That's just the way it is. Okay, what does it look like?
Dark.
Yeah, but I can see
kind of
around
looks
the
like
edges.
A porter.
Yeah, because it's not crazy dark. There is a little bit of a head on top and a kind of medium-sized bubbles to it. So,
It smells nice.
Whoa. Okay.
It smells so, the thing about the brewery beer is they're usually so complex.
Yeah. Well, especially the Hoarder Society beers, in my opinion. The ones that I've had get crazy complex because they usually put in a lot of interesting ingredients and they're always blended very well together. Now, the first thing that hit me that's interesting / weird in this is it seems like there's a minerality in the nose that jumps out at me initially. I think that's probably coming from the sourness.
Yeah. It's definitely sour. I'm definitely getting the blueberries.
Yeah, but they're soft.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I mean you have to really search for it, but it's definitely there in the nose.
Actually, as I keep sniffing it, like it does smell very soft.
Yeah, it does.
Like initially, I got mainly that sourness and a minerality to it, and then once my nose got used to it, I got the blueberry. I am getting the vanilla. I don't know so much about the chocolate, the cacao.
I'm not getting that. I'm getting some sort of like maple syrup. Maple syrup or caramel.
Okay.
Or like something molasses, something in that kind of vein.
I would assume that's probably just from the base of the stout.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree with that. Yeah, molasses probably more like it, in my opinion. Definitely. But it's mixing well with the vanilla. Yeah. It smells really interesting and good and easy. It tastes way more subdued than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Agreed. It's super light. Like you smell it and you look at the color and then you taste it and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah. Body-wise, it seems very thin for being stout. Now, granted, it's a sour stout, and it's 7.9%, but the body seems even less than you would assume.
And this is, read it to me again, a sour stout with blueberries.
Sour stout aged in oak barrels with cacao nibs, vanilla, and blueberries.
Okay.
Now, it's been in the bottle for about 2 years, so at least 1.5.
Yeah, I'm not getting any of the cacao.
Yeah, I don't really get the cacao. I taste the blueberry. There's like a definite fruitiness, but I feel like the blueberry's falling in with the sour.
Right.
So it's a little hard to differentiate what's what there. And then I am getting the vanilla, but I'm not getting it as much as I wanted.
I just got another little pour, and in the sniffer, I definitely am perceiving the vanilla more.
You sniff that aroma.
I did.
Oh, you hoover that aroma snief. There's like another one of the weird smells in there. It now smells to me kind of like tobacco-y and
Really?
a little ashy.
Not getting that.
Tobacco and ash coming out of there. Not like high level.
I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's good. It's drinkable. I was kind of hoping for more. What I was hoping for, I'm not really sure.
Right. So for what the ingredients reads, it's way subdued. It's like crazy subdued in comparison to what you would think you're going to get based off the description.
Right.
But maybe part of that is the time in the bottle. I don't know.
Who knows? I will say for me, I like the level of sour because it's not too much. It's low.
Yeah, it is low.
So for me, I like that.
Oh, and I wanted to give a quick update on, since we're recording this in pieces, when we finished the Old Tart at Darkness, towards the end as it really warmed up, I was getting some more roastiness from the malts of the base sour stout, and I got a ashy finish to it, but it was a really nice ashy finish that helped kind of balance the sourness a lot. So, just an update on that. Okay, well, I'm a little disappointed in this, because I was hoping for more robust flavors. Yeah. It's still good. It's very easy and drinkable. It's just not what I was hoping for.
Sure.
But, okay, let's see what we get with beer number 3. And since we just did the 2018 Hoarders Cuvée for the Bruery Society side, I figured I happen to have the regular brewery side Hoarders Cuvée from 2018, so why don't we just do that?
Okay.
Follow it up, so people can get a good idea of, in this year, for both sides of the brewery, for the Hoarders, what did they get? What were these special cuvées? I just felt like it made sense. So anyway, the brewery side cuvée is higher in alcohol. It is 16.6%, so it's up there. It is also in a 375 milliliter bottle, thankfully, with the wax and everything. It is a blended ale and imperial stout, aged in bourbon barrels with graham cracker crumbs, ginger snap cookies, maple syrup, cacao, cinnamon, ginger, and natural flavors added. Don't know what those natural flavors added would be. I'm assuming it's to bolster some of the other flavors. So, I will say, as I'm pouring this, it looks lighter and thinner than I thought it would be for 16.6%. But
man,
we'll see. We'll see. Looks interesting.
I mean, looks like a brown ale.
Yeah, it totally does. Like I can see through not through like the very middle of it, but through pretty far in on the edges. I can see through it. A little bit of bubbles hanging out on the sides, but it's like on the bigger side. Yeah.
Smells like,
oh my gosh,
it smells straight up like gingerbread. You probably hate this.
It's very. That's a smell overload for me personally, because it smells like a lot of spices.
It is like clove. It is ginger. It is cinnamon.
It's like someone took a spice rack and just emptied everything in the spice rack into one pile. Like that's what it smells like.
Cinnamon and ginger are in here, right?
Yes. Cacao, cinnamon, ginger snap cookies, maple syrup, graham cracker crumbs.
It definitely smells like ginger snap cookie.
Yeah, well, because there's a really strong molasses to it, in my opinion, that's going along with the ginger, the cinnamon. So yeah, and that's how ginger snap cookies usually really are. It's got like got that molasses going on, but a strong. I feel like I don't really smell much barrel character except for like alcohol wise. Like I'm not really smelling bourbony. But maybe it's getting lost in that molasses. But I am smelling a little wood, actually. A little wood character from the barrel on the end of each sniff.
I already took a sip.
It smells robust.
I already took a sip. I think it is so good. It is so desserty, though.
Whoa.
It is like
oh my.
Gingerbread, ginger snap, cookie, cake. Yeah. Sticky, gooey.
So let me throw this out there. For me, and I actually kind of like this, even though the spice level is relatively high.
I think Carlin's going to hate this.
No, I actually kind of like it, even though the spice level is high, because it feels like they're integrated well, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, it kind of tastes like a fusion of that ginger snap cookie with a coffee cake.
Okay. That's
what it tastes like to me.
It's good. And I think the integration of the barrel works too, to kind of help mellow out. The spices, I think, are more prevalent on the nose than they are on the taste. Mm-hmm. They're definitely there on the taste.
Thankfully. Well, and here's the thing. As I kind of get used to the spices, as I take more sips, they start to... my perception of them comes down a little bit more, and I'm tasting more of the barrel character. That bourbon's actually starting to grow at the end, getting a little caramel from that. It's almost tasting a little almondy in the finish for me too, which is kind of interesting. And I'm getting more of the wood. Like I was saying, I was smelling some of the barrel wood.
This warms you.
Yeah, this is definitely like would hit a lot of people as like a seasonal, like winter beer.
Yeah.
Not just because of the ABV, but the flavors. Yeah, it would remind people of, making holiday cookies during the winter.
Yeah.
So
it's tasty.
Yeah, this is,
So you like it?
I do like it. I can't do a ton of it though, because those spices are significant enough that I'll get palate fatigue from that. I will definitely get palate fatigue from that, but it's a 375 milliliter bottle and I'm splitting it with you.
Yeah.
So
you'll be good.
That's not a big deal. Now, ABV wise with this, 16.6% doesn't really taste like that.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It does taste high, but
it's definitely, yeah.
But maybe 12 max, in my opinion.
I was going to say 10.
Sure, 10, between 10 and 12. But the body is a lot thinner than I thought it would be. But I kind of like that.
It's not too thin. It's not thin. It's not wrong.
Right. But it doesn't come off as syrupy.
No.
And at 16.6%, you would assume it's going to be at least kind of syrupy. It doesn't really come off that way. And I think a lot of that has to do with the development of the flavors.
Yeah.
It kind of messes with your palate perception of the syrupiness of it. Yeah, it's, I'm surprised I kind of like it because I think it helps that it mellows out at the end. It mellows out a lot. Like, it's a lot of the spices up front, and then it just slowly kind of, like, mellows out. And at the end, like I said, it's more barrel. It's more of that kind of caramel. Actually, now vanilla is really coming out, and the wood, and that takes over and kind of cleanses your palate of the spices.
Very, very good.
Yeah, this is a nice one. I'm glad we decided to do both of those Hoarders beers. So this takes me back to something I've said, damn these Hoarder Society people, because I can't get the beers. Let me in. I'm knocking at the door. No, I'm very happy with the Reserve Society. We get a lot of amazing stuff that a lot of people can't get a hold of, so we're fortunate for that. But anyway, let's go to the final beer of the episode. And this one is taking us back to Bruery Terroir, since we, actually this will be the third Bruery Terroir of the episode, but it's a large format bottle, it's a 750 milliliter, and I had to open it off podcast because it is corked. Not corked and caged, it was corked and then had wax on top. Although the wax wasn't like around the whole lip of the bottle or anything. It was just like a little bit of wax sitting on top of the cork.
Yeah.
So I was just able to like flick it off, basically.
You did.
It was kind of like, I don't know why it was on there, to be honest. Because like the cork was doing all the work. But I guess maybe because the cork can breathe a little bit because it is porous. So maybe that was the thought behind it. I don't know. But anyway, this is one of the things I've talked about before on the podcast, doing these Bruery Society Beers episodes. They've been experimenting a lot at the brewery with like wine beer hybrids. And this is another one of these wine beer hybrids. This is, I believe, the Gozas Are Red is the one that I had on here before. And that one was really good with like the Syrah grapes, Goza with Syrah. So this is their Bourgogne Noir. This is the 2017, so it's at about 3 years in the bottle at this point. It's an ale with Pinot Noir grape must aged in French oak puncheons. And the ABV on this is 14.1%.
Okay, so it is like a wine.
It's on the higher end. So like the higher end of wines are Zinfandels at 14%, typically.
As you're pouring it, it looks like a wine.
It totally looks like it. Well, when I pulled the cork out, like it looks... First of all, it looked cool because, you know, it's got Bruery Terroir on it and said Bruery Terroir... and then it said... Oh, sorry, I'm giving you a wrong one.
My glass.
It said Bruery Terroir on it, and then around the bottom it said the society, the Bruery Societies, which was kind of cool. And then... You know how when you uncork a red wine, it'll have just like how like dark red the bottom of that cork is that's been in the bottle having contact with the wine? It looked just like that. So this looks just like wine, does it not?
Yeah.
100%. Like I can see through it. I mean, if you poured this for me and were like, this is a Pinot Noir, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, it looks like Pinot Noir.
There's no carbonation.
Pinot Noir grape musk.
There's like no carbonation too. which I'm fine with. I'm good with that.
And it smells like wine.
Yeah. Oh, man, it smells very tannic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously that's because of having so much contact with the Pinot Noir grape must. That's where all the tannins come from.
I mean, it's like really, really jammy.
Ooh, yeah, it is. Honestly, it just smells like a really fruity, jammy, flavorful, light red wine.
Mm-hmm.
Does it smell like tart to you? It doesn't really smell tart to me. I mean, the only tartness to it is like a fruit tartness for me. Like a little bit of like a cherry note, a little bit of raspberry mixed in there. Yeah. A little strawberry too. Yeah, it's just like berry melange in a sense. That's what it smells like.
That's really what it tastes like.
Oh, yeah.
It tastes like a nice Pinot Noir.
It does, but there is a little tartness to it that I feel like when I sip it, I'm tasting... It's weird because I feel like when I'm sipping it, I'm tasting a Pinot Noir with all its tannic, fruity, jammy goodness encapsulated in this very light tart coating. And it almost makes me feel like it's a wine version of a toned down Warhead.
Okay. Well, the viscosity, like the body, is definitely not wine-esque. It has more of it's a real full body that I've never had in a wine, this type of body.
To me, the body's confusing because up front, it feels very tannic and very thick and like a normal viscosity for a lighter red wine. And then as it keeps going, the finish is more like thin and watery. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's weird because the mouthfeel transitions from more serious to less serious. It's kind of a little bit mind-bending in a sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really confusing. Because the other thing is, you think it's a red wine, but red wine typically isn't chilled like this, so that's the other thing that's kind of like, this is weird.
That's a good point. What would this taste like 100% room temperature? That's a good point. And we'll be able to taste that. I mean, that won't be on podcast because it's our last beer of the episode, but it's interesting. And honestly, like I have some of the must in the bottom of my glass.
I do too.
So it's not just like sitting, well, I was going to say it's not just sitting on the bottom. This bottle was laying down. So that's probably why we ended up getting it. But if you just gave this to me and was like, here's a red wine, I don't think I would question that.
No, I wouldn't.
I don't think I'd be able to be like, oh, this is a beer wine hybrid. I would be like, this is a tasty red wine with a weird mouthfeel.
Yeah. It is a little more tart than a lot of red wine, though.
Accurate, yeah.
That's the other...
It's got that little acidic snap.
Just a little.
Which honestly almost makes it like somebody took a nice, jammy, fruity, flavorful Pinot Noir and then it was 75% that and like 25% like an easy Sauvignon Blanc to give it that crisp, dry snap. That's what it kind of seems like to me. Is that someone was doing some funny red and white wine blending. I mean, that's what it seems like. It's good, though. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it.
I think it's really good.
Yeah, you as a wine fan.
I mean, I like red wine, so I really like this.
So here's another question. You knew what this was coming to this episode. What were you expecting from it?
I was not going to like it.
Exactly, right?
I was like, I'm not going to like this.
But this is the thing. These beer wine hybrids, they're not really tasting like beer.
Yeah. The last beer wine hybrid I drank got me in trouble.
But it was very tasty, am I right?
But it was very tasty.
But also think back to the other beer wine hybrids you've had from the brewery.
Which were very good.
The Gozes are red. You really enjoyed that one. Even more so the Yount that we had.
Yeah.
That just tasted like a beautiful Zinfandel. We do have a red wine barrel-aged version of Black Tuesday in the basement somewhere that we can try at some point. So that is also on the table. We could do that for one of these episodes. So Okay, but now what we do is we're going to rank these, and then I'll let anyone know if any of these 4 beers broke the top 5 for the running list I'm keeping for these Bruery Society Beers episodes. And regardless, I'll tell you what the top 5 are still. But I have to look at my list to see if any of them are going to break.
Well, refresh my memory. What was in the Tart of Darkness?
It's just Tart of Dark. It's just a sour stout and oak.
Okay.
Remember? You remember now? Yeah. Okay.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm going to tell you right now, none of these are going to break my top 5 running. So I'll tell you what the top 5 are after this. So my number... This is tough. I'm going to go my number 4, unfortunately, is the 2013 Tart of Darkness. It is quite good. Like I said, as we continued to drink it, it developed a little bit more. It had a nice, more serious like ashiness with a dark chocolate on the finish. It is good, but that's my number 4. My number 3 is going to be the Bruery Terrier Hoarder's Cuvée. That was the blended sour stout aged in oak barrels with cacao nibs, vanilla, and blueberries. That one's good, but the flavor was very understated, as we kind of talked about. It was just kind of more easy. Nothing wrong with it. It was tasty enough. My number 2 is going to be this Bourgogne Noir 2017, the ale with Pinot Noir, grape must, aged in French oak puncheons. It's not discernible, like we talked about, as a beer. It's not even necessarily fully discernible as a wine, but it's more wine, way more wine than beer. It's done well. It's tasty, especially if you like red wines. You're going to dig on that. And my number 1, obviously, is the Bruery's Hoarder's Cuvée from 2018. This was the blended ale with imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels with graham cracker crumbs, ginger snap cookies, maple syrup, cacao, cinnamon, ginger, and natural flavors added. And that's surprising to me.
That's very surprising. I cannot believe that.
I know, right? Because with all those spices, but the thing
crazy.
is, it was so well crafted. And even though I'm not huge on the spices, I drank my half of that bottle.
Sure did.
And I enjoyed it. I did. So
my ranking's the exact same, actually.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm not that surprised. When I
could have switched the bottom 2, the Tart of Darkness and the
Hoarder's Cuvée.
But my number 1 was solid. That was so good.
Yeah, I know. You were hoping I wasn't digging
I know.
it.
I was like, oh, Carlin's not going to like this. It's too spicy. I can drink more of it.
I was like, no. I want my half.
No.
Just like, no. I think I'm going to want my half of this Bourgogne Noir.
Yeah.
So.
That's good.
All right. So let me go over real quick what the top 5 beers are at the moment. Number 5 is the Ada Boysenberry, which is the bourbon barrel-aged wheat wine with boysenberries and vanilla. Number 4 is the S'more Bubbles, which is a sour stout and imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels with marshmallow, cacao, graham cracker, and vanilla. Number 3, straight up So Happens It's Tuesday, just a bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout. Number 2, Wee Heavy Coconuts, which is the bourbon barrel-aged Scotch Wee Heavy with toasted coconut, walnuts, and cinnamon. And number 1, the Island Time Sweet Stout with Hawaiian sea salt and lactose with marshmallow, toasted coconut, and natural vanilla flavor. If people just wanted like a little peek, number 6 is the Icky Thump, the Imperial Stout with coffee. Number 7 is the Geburtstagskrantz, the bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout with vanilla, cacao nibs, and tart cherries. Number 8, You Asked For It, was the bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout with vanilla. Number 9 is this Hoarder's Cuvée, our number 1 for this episode. That's my number 9. And rounding out to number 10, So Happens It's Tuesday Mole, which is the bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout with vanilla, cacao, cinnamon, cayenne peppers, and lactose. So just to expand on it, because I know I usually just give the top 5, but just a refresher, the top 10, there you go. And cool episode, because we had one that popped in the top 10. Very nice. But, yeah, so I have an idea of where I'm going with the next one of these. I'm going to keep trying to introduce new concepts to have a little bit of something to talk about as far as the society goes. But at some point, that's going to run out. So just know after that, I'm just going to be presenting these beers, going through them, and enjoying tasting them because they're, for the most part, all really good. So, your thoughts?
It was good.
That's all you got? It was good?
Yeah, it was interesting. Well, it's always interesting because, the brewery always puts out like such complex, interesting beers.
It's true.
And it's always fun to have a beer that you think you're not going to like and then you do like.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's always fun, or vice versa. You think that, oh, this sounds really good, and then it just, flavors just don't work as well as you'd like, or so. What? The musk?
Yeah, the must and the sediment in that. I just hit the bottom of my glass from this Bourgogne Noir, and that sediment is very peppery.
Oh.
For some reason. It's just like very earthy and peppery in it. It's too much there.
Whew.
A little rough, but I'm going to enjoy drinking this. Thanks everyone for checking this one out. Who knows where we're going next? We'll figure it out. But if you have ideas on stuff you want to hear, specific formats of episodes or specific beers, whatever, let us know. brutalbattlepodcast@gmail.com. But thank you so much, and until next time.
Keep it brutal.
I feel so